Welcome to The Extra on KRDO News Radio, show that connects you with topics and issues and people that are important to you. We always love when she's here. Catherine Hammond, Hammond Law Group is here. Hello, Catherine.
Good morning, Renee.
It's good to see you.
So good to be back with you.
And you guys, you've been busy. You guys
Yes.
are always busy.
We have a lot going on. Yeah,
I know.
we've been doing a lot of wonderful things out in the community. So.
Are the walls still up?
Yes, the Before I Die chalkboards are still in several locations. There's one that's being reinstalled. Lots of good stuff going on there. There was just an article, I believe, in this week's Catholic Herald about the boards and some of the great things going on around those. So
yeah, it's fantastic. It was great when you launched that, and it sounds like a lot of good response to it.
Yeah.
It kind of puts everything in, okay, yes, this is going to happen. So I might as well write down what I want to do before I die, right? And then you also brought a special guest. Chad Spencer is here, also an attorney. But Chad, it sounds like you are a Medicaid expert.
Yes, you could say that.
Yes. Along with other things.
But learning as we go, especially because there's so many things that are changing all the time.
I was going to say it's probably tricky to understand and keep up with and all the changes constantly. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about this hour, asset protection.
Yes, and what every senior needs to know about it.
Perfect. Yeah, getting ready, as we always talk about with Catherine, and how to protect your assets in case you any kind of long-term care. And so let's just hop right in, you guys. First question, why does every senior need to know about long-term care?
The main reason that we tell folks that need to learn to know about long-term care is because it is very, very expensive. So long-term care in a nursing home is going to cost anywhere up to about $8,000 a month, which translates to over $90,000 a year. So it can eat away at assets pretty quickly.
And what if you and your spouse are in a nursing home?
Then you're going to double that.
Right.
And you said it was $8,000 a month?
About $8,000 a month on average in Colorado.
That's for full-time nursing home care?
That's for full-time nursing home care.
Okay, I'm a little startled right now.
Well, and a lot of folks say they want to stay home, and
Right.
if you have full-time care at home, it could be even
more.
more than that.
Wow. Okay. So when you're talking about long-term care, and we can kind of go back and forth here, but what exactly are you talking about? Are you just talking about nursing home care, like you're saying bringing somebody into the home or partial at home? And there's so many options, aren't there, for long-term
There
care?
are a lot of options. There's a lot of services now for in-home care because people feel like they want to stay home. However, as a caregiver, the spouse or children are still going to be helping with the care, and that can be very daunting. So we always recommend that people at least look at the option of going into a senior community because they do have a lot of resources. They're a lot better than they used to be at actually taking care of folks in the best possible way and alleviating some of the stress from the family and the spouse and the children from having to take care of that person.
And when you say senior community, it's not full-time care, but it's a community with resources like...
When we say senior community, that would be a long-term care nursing home.
So it is a nursing home?
It is a nursing home.
Okay. I wasn't quite sure if it was like,
Sure.
It's a senior living community where, you buy a house or,
Now, a lot of the communities are bridging the gap between independent living, assisted living, and then long-term care. So you can stay in the same community with the same friends and move from one level of care to another as your needs increase.
And like you're saying, that is becoming more popular, seeing more of that
in the community. There are several of those in town.
Is it still as pricey, say, if somebody moves in to, say, the community where they may not need full-time care as full-time care?
Yeah, as the needs go up, the cost of care goes up in general.
And we've got a lot more to talk about with this and getting ready and being ready with your asset protection. We've got Catherine Hammond from Hammond Law Group and Chad Spencer on The Extra on KRDO News Radio. Welcome back to The Extra on KRDO News Radio. Today we're talking with Catherine Hammond, Hammond Law Group, and special guest Chad Spencer. And not only does Chad specialize in lots of other things, but also Medicaid. So you're here to help us kind of get ready for long-term care, asset protection. And we were talking about, Chad, before the break, the different types of long-term care, what it kind of means, and then the cost. You said average is $8,000 a month.
Correct.
That's a huge chunk of money. I mean, I was telling you guys in the break, that makes me hyperventilate.
That's a huge chunk of money.
Is that a private room or is that a semi-private room?
Either way.
Yeah.
So Medicaid does not pay for private rooms in most cases. So that would be whether or not you're sharing the room. But that is, on average, it's just under $8,000 for a private pay facility that doesn't accept Medicaid. But then the Medicaid facilities are just as expensive.
And that's what we're going to get into next, so I can hyperventilate over here. Anybody? I mean,
how are we going to pay for this?
How do you pay for this? I mean, literally, really, how do you pay for this?
Sure.
Because like Catherine was saying, okay, you save a couple $1 million. Not realistic for most people, right?
Right. So let me just say, my first recommendation to people is that you not become incapacitated, that you not need care. You live a wonderful, healthy life until you're 95, and then you go to sleep one night and quietly pass away.
That would be ideal,
right.
wouldn't it?
So if you follow my advice there, you'll be great.
Great
Otherwise,
advice. Great
a lot
advice.
of people don't follow our advice, right, Chad?
They don't.
So for those of us that may not follow that advice, how do you prepare to pay for this? How can you even pay for this?
It's anybody over 65 has Medicare, and so a lot of folks think that Medicare will pay for it. However, Medicare will pay for the first 20 days, and then there'll be a daily copay of about $166 a day for any care that Medicare is going to pay for, and that's only in a rehabilitation scenario where someone is actually improving. If you stop improving, Medicare will stop paying. So now we're looking at other options. Is that going to be long-term care insurance? The best thing that we can do is plan ahead of time with the finances. Will there be enough money in reserve, in income, guaranteed income for the remainder of someone's life? If they hit that little speed bump, is it going to cover that extra, $7,000 a month? And so that's our best advice, is to have somebody prepare and talk to their financial planner to get that roadmap. So otherwise, there are only two other ways to pay beyond Medicare: Medicaid or long-term care insurance. And so we always recommend, if someone can qualify, if it is cost effective, to look into long-term care insurance. They're getting much better in the different programs that they're offering. Combination policies that are life insurance with a long-term care insurance rider on it, whatever it might be.
And that one's great for people who think, well, what if I never end up needing long-term care? Because all of us hope we're not going to need it. And then if you don't end up using it, when it's a rider on a life insurance policy, your family still gets some benefit when you die.
Right. And only 70% of Americans over the age of 65 will need some sort of long-term care in their lifetime. So it's a pretty good chance that it's going to be used. But at least this way, that 30% chance that it's not going to be used, at least it pays out one way or the other.
Well, and long-term care insurance can make such a big difference, and there are all kinds of different policies. There are a lot of policies that will cover in-home care, and that has been life-changing, life-saving for my parents.
So
my
for some
dad
of
and
the
stepmom.
care insurance, they will cover in-home.
Exactly. And so my dad has been sick for the last 20 years. He had cancer in his head, and it's had the cancer and the treatment have had some detrimental effects. And my stepmom has been valiantly taking care of him. And so, probably 7 years ago or so, she started using their long-term care insurance policy that they've been paying on for years. And they have somebody come into their house every single day for a full day to give her a little bit of a break in terms of some stuff around the house.
Right.
Allows her to leave the house and go to her own medical appointments and go to a yoga class
Or a spa day. Or
exactly. Yes.
mental health day.
She
right?
doesn't tend to be very good at using it for those things.
Oh.
She'll do it for grocery shopping
Right.
and things like that. So I wish more caregivers would use it for the spa day. So,
Right.
But it's there to give us a little bit of breathing room, because taking care of a family member is a really big stress.
And you and I have talked before, Catherine, about how do you make that decision to care at home or put in a care facility. And again, going back to the Medicare, Medicaid thing, just so everybody understands, long-term care insurance, obviously, like you're saying, financial planning ahead. Speak with your financial planner. Get the long-term care insurance on as a rider on your insurance, right?
Correct.
And then review again the Medicare, Medicaid thing.
Medicare is health insurance.
Yep.
Medicaid is a need-based program to help individuals that are over 65 over 55 pay for their long-term care in a long-term care facility or using an at-home provider. However, as Catherine was saying, ever the optimist, with new long-term care insurance policies, the in-home benefit is usually about half of what it is for a institutionalized benefit. So people need to watch that in the new insurance policies that they're getting, is that look at that in-home benefit, and the benefit's probably going to be half of what it normally would be.
And Medicare will only cover this much, and then Medicaid is where you go to.
Medicaid will take care of the rest if you qualify financially for it.
All these things to know, right? I hope everybody's taking notes, because it is, Chad, isn't it? It's a lot to step through and navigate through.
It can be a huge mess, and if timing is everything, if you apply for Medicaid too soon, then you're going to get denied.
And then how long can you not reapply again?
Well, you can go through an appeal process and go down to the courthouse and sit in front of a judge and appeal that decision. But that's why we say timing is everything, and then you need an expert to help with that. Even the simplest application can be very daunting.
Wow. Okay, we'll have more about getting you ready for, everybody needs to be ready. Asset protection and long-term care with Catherine Hammond and Chad Spencer on The Extra on KRDO News Radio. Welcome back to The Extra on KRDO News Radio, talking with Catherine Hammond, Hammond Law Group, and Chad Spencer is here, the Medicaid, and I get that look whenever I say the Medicaid expert from Chad. I'm like, not just that, Renee. So, a lot of other stuff too, Chad. But we were talking about being prepared and getting prepared for the future. We're all going to be there one day, have family members there, and getting ready for possible long-term care and what you need to know about Medicaid, Medicare. And we wanted to touch on some of the myths about Medicaid. And we were saying before the break, roughly $8,000 a month. I keep driving that home. $8,000 a month for long-term care.
Correct.
I mean, that's a lot of money.
Right.
So, but there are, and we talked about what Medicare does, what Medicaid does, but there are some myths about Medicaid, aren't there?
There are a lot of things out there that people are hearing about in the barbershop and the beauty shop that aren't necessarily from experts. And so what people are hearing is that Medicaid's going to take my house. It's not true.
Really?
Yes.
Why would Medicaid take your house?
I don't know.
Oh.
It doesn't make any sense.
But that's what they're hearing.
That's what they're hearing. Medicaid will take my house. How do I protect my house from Medicaid? Other myths are I have to spend everything to the nursing home until I get down to my last $2,000, and then I can qualify for Medicaid. Now, the rule is for an individual down to $2,000. $2,000 is the most that they can have in assets. However,
that's the most you can have in assets.
The most you can have in countable assets. There are a lot of exemptions for Medicaid. However, the fact that you would spend all of your money to the nursing home and then try and qualify for Medicaid doesn't make any sense. So how do we preserve the assets?
Yeah, and there are a lot of people who just don't know any better, which was me back in the 1980s when my mom, first went into a nursing home with Alzheimer's. She was in a great facility. I sold her house, spent all of her money, and then when all of the money was gone, filed the Medicaid application.
Correct. And the thing about it is, if let's say someone, as an example, has $700,000 in assets, we can protect probably $500,000 of those assets immediately in qualifying for Medicaid.
Oh.
And they can qualify. People say, I'll never qualify. I have too much. It's not necessarily the case. If you need $1.5 to $2 million to preserve your assets to pay on your own, then that's one thing. But if someone has less than that, then they can qualify much, much sooner than they think.
And like you were saying before we went to break, the timing of applying and qualifying for Medicaid it's tricky.
It is very tricky. There are two prongs to qualifying for Medicaid. One is a physical or functional assessment, and one is a financial qualification. And so what we can do is if people are happy and healthy, we can qualify them financially for Medicaid well before they need to actually apply with a physical need.
So ahead of time with the financial, like you're saying, okay, I do qualify for it.
Right.
And that can kind of take some of the guesswork out of it.
That takes a lot of the stress out. Then if there is a need in the future, the assets are still there. It's just they've been shifted a little bit. And so how do we protect, a lifetime of saving and investing instead of spending it to the nursing home? Because the nursing homes will say, give us the money and we can qualify you, prepay us for your care, and we'll qualify you sooner. What we're saying is don't do that. You can save the house. You can save a big portion of the assets and still qualify for Medicaid and have Medicaid kick in much sooner than people think.
Wow.
One of the other myths would be people think they have to wait 60 months because there's a look back period. Well, let's look forward for 60 months instead. And that's kind of what we talk about.
Now,
It's all about planning.
It's all about planning.
It's all about planning, like you're saying. But now, if we could all, like you said, Catherine, live till 95 and just go to sleep one day, and that would be fantastic, right? Okay, so that was one of the myths. Any more myths we need to cover?
The main one is the house. People are afraid of losing their home. I had a client that came in yesterday that didn't have any planning in place, didn't feel like she could qualify for long-term care insurance, and said, let's go ahead and set this up so that I can protect the house because she wants to pass it to her kids. She worked as a single mother to pay off that house, working several jobs, and she doesn't want to have to lose it and sell it so that she can pay for her long-term care. So that's one way that we can help her at least have the peace of mind that her house will go to her kids someday.
Now, when should folks start thinking about all of this planning? Is there a good age that you recommend, like 55, 65, when or before?
Our best advice is plan before you need it.
Right.
It's very sophisticated advice, I know.
It is.
That's my legal opinion. Make sure you do the planning before you need it.
So any time is what you're saying.
Anytime. I would say you don't want to necessarily do any long-term care planning when you're in your 20s or 30s.
Right.
But long-term care insurance, they say now it's in your 40s, then you start looking at long-term care insurance because you're going to get the best policy at the lowest rate.
Right, and I know people who have applied for it even in their 40s, and they had some sort of a medical condition that made them completely ineligible for long-term care insurance. I personally bought my policy when I was 44, so that wouldn't happen to me.
So look into it now.
Yeah.
And then get with somebody to help start planning.
Right. And the way we look at it is if you don't do anything, all of the assets, that full, as an example, $700,000 of an estate is subject to all of your creditors and predators, including the nursing home costs, the cost of care. If we do proper planning, like I said, we can save or preserve 80% of that money today for future use and to pass along to the family.
That's a lot of to think about, isn't it? And process. There are a lot of folks right now probably going, okay, we need to have a conversation.
And helpful for us everyday people who will never be able to save
$1
million or $2 million or whatever it might be to pay for all of our nursing home care.
Right. Yeah. Start planning now.
Right.
And in the qualification process, it takes a little bit, doesn't it? Like, how much time do you estimate? And I'm just talking the financial, obviously, not the physical.
Sure. To qualify financially, it doesn't take very much time. It's just a matter of getting started.
Okay.
And because you want to get the clock started on that 5-year look forward period, and after that 5-year period, all of the assets that have been that we're working with have been protected.
Okay. Okay, you guys. So let's take a quick break. We'll wrap this up with Catherine Hammond and Chad Spencer from Hammond Law on the Extra on KRDO News Radio. Welcome back to the Extra on KRDO News Radio. Today we're talking with Catherine Hammond, Chad Spencer, Hammond Law Group, and we've been talking about asset protection, getting ready for especially long-term care and Medicare and Medicaid. And when you're talking about getting qualified, Chad, you were saying there's two levels, financial and physical. And what do they look at when you're qualifying financially for Medicaid?
They're going to look at total resources or assets available to pay for costs of care and also income. The income levels are pretty low. However, people can still qualify if their income is over that amount. So the income for an individual that's applying for Medicaid is just over $2,000 a month. However, there are laws protecting community spouses. So if there's a spouse that does not need care, they can have additional income, obviously, to take care of themselves and the house and other assets. So there's a lot of rules, but there's always exceptions to the rules and exceptions to the exceptions to the exceptions of the rules. So,
well, always changing.
Right, and it's always changing.
Always, yeah. But it comes down to basically planning, right? Being ready. Start it now.
Start it now.
Yeah.
Right. Which can relieve so much stress for your family when the time comes. That financial stress is huge.
Yeah.
Already when you have a loved one who's incapacitated in some way, it's just hard.
It is.
And so the financial stress on top of that is really burdensome. And it can change the quality of care that you get if you have a good plan. And it allows your hard-earned money to, for at least a good portion of that, to stay in your family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked many times with one of our favorite long-term care specialists, Bill Hall at Hall and Associates, and he mentions that they talk to clients all the time that will go on claim with their long-term care insurance, and nobody has ever said that they wish they planned less or they had less coverage. Everybody says they're very, very grateful for the coverage because it alleviates that stress,
Right.
and they don't have to worry about at least that piece of it. Having someone in a situation that needs that type of care is stressful enough. Why do you need to worry about it financially as well?
Yeah, and being caught also in that kind of, like we've talked about numerous times, Catherine, is being caught off guard if all of a sudden somebody has to go into that long-term care. I mean, that's really hard, and not being prepared for it.
Yeah, part of that is and one of the biggest things is people need to go out into the community and find a senior community that they're comfortable with. And that's why we visited most of the facilities in town, so we can give a good recommendation for clients on which type of need they have and where is that going to be covered the best and the most with whatever community they go to. And so we can make those recommendations just by simply visiting those different communities in town.
Now, you do offer an asset protection analysis for everybody.
We do. Anybody that wants to fill out an asset protection worksheet can get a free analysis of how their assets can be protected and how much and how long it will take and that kind of thing before they need any to do any planning. So they're just in a pre-planning phase. We can do an asset protection analysis for just about anybody.
And we're offering that for free for any listeners.
Wow.
Right. Normally there would be a fee for that, but we're offering it free for your visitors.
So how would they be able to take advantage of that?
They can call our office at 719-520-1474.
And is it like a certain amount of time that they can do this, or just to get that free?
No, we're going to offer it whenever they figure out that they need it again. We always recommend planning ahead. It's funny, at the holidays is the time that people think, oh, I'll get around to this next year. Once I get through the holidays, I'll come back to planning for these really important things. We can have life-changing events anytime, including over the holidays, and that means it's now too late to plan. So do it now. Maybe we should put an end date on that, but we don't have an end date on how long we'll offer that. So, and we do have an estate planning workshop coming up on December 5th for anybody who would like to get things rolling so that they have an estate plan done by the time the new year rolls around on December 5th at 2:00 in the afternoon. Again, you can call our office, 719-520-1474, or go online to coloradoestateplan.com.
And again, that workshop or the seminar is December 5th at 2 p.m. Correct. And then is that the last one for the year before you start them up?
Exactly.
Awesome. And again, how can everybody get a hold of you guys? Once again.
Yeah, they can call our office at 719-520-1474 or check out our website at coloradoestateplan.com.
Perfect. Thank you guys both for coming in. Now that everybody's going, OMG. I got to start planning.
So sorry.
Yeah, the phone's going to start ringing. No, that's good. Thank you guys, and happy Thanksgiving, by the way.
Thank you.
We'll see you next month, Catherine. And then coming up tonight on News Channel 13, Colorado Springs, major military town, as we all know. And KRDO's Andrew Rogers, joined again by News Channel 13's Bart Bedsole, who's looking into if Colorado Springs could be the home of a new military branch.